Okay, I'm working on this 2006 Dodge Durango here today. We're going to be replacing the alternator on here. I've got another replacement. This actually came off of a 2008 Ram, and it was the only one I could find that looked close. Unfortunately, I didn't take a picture of this connector, and this connector doesn't match, so I'm actually going to have to try to swap that over to the other one, but the rest of this is the same. I even matched up most. The only difference was this last letter right here, this P, but for whatever reason the connectors are different, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. Okay, I went ahead and cranked it up. You can see the battery light clearly up here on this side. Okay, so we got our multimeter. Said we got it set over here on to volts. We just put it on to 20. And we got our test leads. Said one, the black should be in the COM. And this one over here on this tester, we're just going to go ahead and turn this on. And we'll go over here and connect it up and see what kind of volts we got. Okay, so we just got the red on our positive, and we're just touching the black over on our ground, and we can see we've got a draw on this battery. We're not putting out any volts, so that's a dead giveaway. And you can also hear some excessive noise coming from there. Okay, so we should have been seeing about 14 volts being put out with it running there, and we were not. So we know we got a problem with our alternator. We're going to go ahead and disconnect at the negative right here before we get started doing anything. And we're just using a 10 millimeter here. Loosen this up. We'll make sure that that's not going to come anywhere near that, and it's completely disconnected. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take these two 13 millimeters out, this air box right here. Just go ahead and completely remove both of these bolts here. All right, we'll go ahead and lift up on this hose and just take and flip it right back over here out of the way for now. We're going to have to give this a tug up right here. We'll make sure that this is popped up and loose. And the next thing, we're going to take an 8 millimeter. We're going to go ahead and loosen up this band. You could use a flat screwdriver as well. With that band loose, just give this a little bit of a tug here, and you should be able to go ahead and lift this whole assembly up and out of the way. Okay, the next thing, we're going to use a 3/8. The square end of a 3/8. We're going to go ahead and get down here onto this tensioner, and the spot that we're going to is going to be right here. You can see that square right there. We're going to get into that, and we're going to go ahead and pull up on this belt here and get this belt off. Okay, you can see with it connected, we're going to pull up here, and you can see as we pull up, we're able to lift that right up and over the top of that alternator there. Okay, now that we have our belt off, we'll go ahead and focus first on this power wire here. We're going to get a 13 millimeter and just remove this nut right here. So go ahead and just completely take that off. Just lift that right up and off there. Now this plug, just squeeze that tab, give it a good squeeze, and lift that right off there. So now we have our wires disconnected from our alternator. Okay, without removing a lot more things, we've got to get to this bracket down here. As you can see, there is, if you look down here, we've got a couple of 13s on this little bracket that runs here. There's 4 of them all together. There's 3 13mm nuts, and there's 1 13mm bolt that you can see right down there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 13mm nuts completely off, and you could use a little ratchet and get in here and work with these. Whatever is going to work for you the easiest. Or what I'm going to be using is this. It's a really slim. It'll fit in here. I'm going to put a socket on it. I'm going to take these loose. I'm going to take the 3 nuts completely off, and I'm going to take the bolt you see down there loose, and then I'll just kind of pull that bracket over and out of the way. So we're just going to get started on removing those. Okay, I'm just working on the first upper there, and once you get these broke loose, you may be able to go ahead and reach down there and kind of get them with your fingers the best you can. So it's not real easy working around this shroud, but you can get to these without removing this. Just take your time. So I've got the one. I'm going to get over here, and I'm going to get this other one, and I've got one more nut down on the bottom to remove, and then I'm going to loosen the bolt up last. And we're not going to take it completely out because there's no need in it, and then we're just going to pull it down out of the way. There's those 13mm nuts. Once I got those plenty loose, I just reach down there and finish removing them by hand. You can see the ones that I've got from the bracket. Now we just have the bolt that's right down there, you can see, and I'm going to go down there. I'm going to loosen that up really well. You can see it right there. It's right down there. We're going to loosen that up really good. We're going to back it off. We're not going to take it quite all the way out, and we're just going to pull this bracket over the top of these studs and kind of pull it down out of the way. So we need to get to this studded bolt right here, and this bracket here is blocking that. Okay, so I just went ahead and I finished loosening. You see that bolt protruding there? It's loosened off. Now I can reach down here and just push this bracket just out of my way a little bit. Another thing about leaving the bolt, it just kind of takes away from the chance of flipping this thing around the wrong way, and there's just really no need to completely remove it because I can get to that 15mm right there now. So that's going to be the next one I'm going to get a hold of. Okay, so I'm on that 15, loosening it up, and these are pretty snug. But once you get them broke loose, you should be able to reach down with your hand and get it from there. So I'm on this studded one, studded bolt right there. I'm just taking that loose, and it's pretty loose now. I can probably get it the rest of the way with my fingers here. You can see I'm loosening it right there. I'm just going to take that one out as far as I can. It may hang up. Okay, now if it doesn't hang up, you should be able to pull it straight out here. And it looks like it is hanging up on me, so that's not uncommon. We'll go ahead, because it's in a little bit of a bind, we'll get on this 15 over here. We'll go ahead and see if we can remove this one. Okay, so I'm just over here back behind this line, taking this loose right here. And these are pretty tight at first till you get them going, and then you can usually just get them with your fingers the rest of the way. Okay, this side over here is wiggling out, no problem. That goes over on that left side. Now we could probably go ahead and get this one out at this point since it's moving. Just got that little bit of a pinch off of it there. So it's loose. We're going to go ahead and get us a little pry bar here now. So these have tabs at the rear that tighten up as you bolt these down, so it's going to be kind of snug at first. You don't want to break anything, but you want to take a pry bar. You see how big a one I got here, a couple feet, and just start working one side up. And just like I said, be careful that you're not breaking anything. Watch what you're doing. But you just want to get in under here and kind of gently work it until it wiggles loose a little bit. And once you get it loose enough, you should be able to take both of your hands and just lift it up and off of here. So it just needs a little bit more right back here. Okay, we got it completely loose. We're ready to go ahead and lift it out of here at this point. And I just want to show you these right here. As you bolt this up, these little sleeves will pull in tight, and that's what makes it hard, and you have to pry it up off there. And the replacement one should go on no problem if it's a new one. If it's a used one, in my case, I'm going to take and knock these down a little bit. I'll show you that. Okay, and what I'm using here, you could use something else. I'm just taking this little flat pry bar and just hitting it and knocking that sleeve back down a little bit to where it's down kind of more flush. That's just going to make it easier to slip the replacement back on there. So just knock both of these down by some means, and it'll just make it where you got more slack till you tighten it up. Like I said, when you tighten these, it pulls these in the way it's designed, so it's a nice snug fit. Okay, this probably won't pertain to yours, but I'm swapping this connector off of mine. It's pretty straightforward removing this and putting it back on. There's just some little screws. In order to get this connector off, you have to remove the brushes, and this is the only difficult part. If you see the brushes are sticking out, and these are really worn, by the way, but you can't just put that down on there. But there's an access right through that hole right there. You can see, focus, that little hole in the bottom. Well, there's enough room to poke a small nail. You can see I've got through this one. A little nail comes through that, and it'll hold that down, and it goes through the top. So we're gonna slip this on here, and then we'll get it in place here now. And then once you get it set down on there, just pull your nail back out. That's the only little tricky part to that, because you can't get to those with that shroud around there. But there's just 4 little screws. The longest one goes over here, the longer one, and then there's like a couple more there, and that's all there is, just to fasten it down. Really simple. I'm using the brushes that came with the replacement. I'm not using the old. This is the old one. You can see how those are worn and see how bad that looks. Okay, so I just had to put my back on here, and there's just 3 little 8mm that hold this on the back. So that was the only tricky part for me, is getting this connector over there, because I have to have that connector for my particular plug-in. Okay, and you can see with these slipped back, these pushed back, these sleeves, it's going to slip on there nice and easy now. So there's our old one out of the way, and we're going to go ahead and get this replacement back on there. Okay, so I'm just setting it down in here, and said if it doesn't fit easily, I'll take it back out and knock those sleeves back a little bit more. But it's going on there nice and loose, so I can lift it up and down, whatever I need to do to line my bolts up. We'll go ahead and just get this bolt over here on this side started first. Okay, and I'm not gonna just snug, I'm just getting this loosely into place. I'm not gonna snug it down just yet. I'll just go run it down a little bit, and I'll get on that other bolt. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get this studded bolt right down there, and like I said, I've got plenty of slack, so these are easy to work back into place here. Okay, now we're just going ahead and snugging up our 15mm, get it really good and tight. And I've got the first studded bolt, and now we'll get over here onto this one and go ahead and snug it down really good and tight. Okay, now we've got our bracket to put back on here. And don't ask me what the purpose of this bracket is. All I know is that it's here, and they put it on the other Hemis too. So anyways, we'll go ahead and we'll just put our 3 little nuts back into place. Our bolt is already on there. And we'll just go ahead and run these down by hand as much as we can, and then we'll start snugging these 4 down for this little brace or bracket. Okay, and I'm just using my little slim, low profile ratchet to tighten up these little 13s. If you don't have one of these, they're really handy to have. They really have helped me out in a lot of tight places. So we've got those snugged up. Our 15s are snugged up. We'll just go ahead and get our connector back on here. We'll go ahead and refasten this. And we've got a 13mm. We'll go ahead and snug that down. Okay, now we just push this little protector right back on there. Right, so now we're ready to go ahead and get our belt back on. Now you have to get this thing wrapped back around that tensioner as the easiest way, but get your ratchet ready on your tensioner right here, and then you pull it up, or I said tensioner, the idler. You get it around the idler and start pulling up here, and then you slip it on top of the alternator as you're pulling all this up. Now if you didn't get too carried away, you should be able just to put most of this belt right back into place. Just run it back up over the top of this. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm just going to be using this to get that tensioner pulled back up. Okay, there we got that belt back up into place. You see how you got to get it around this right here, and then you pull up and hold the tension here and slip it up over the alternator as you're pulling up with this. But they've got lots of belt diagrams if you have any trouble. So we got that on there, we got that connected. We'll go ahead and get our air box back over here into place now. Okay, so we just slipped it down in place, down into that grommet. We'll pop this back into here. Just fold this hose right back over here, and we'll go ahead and tighten. Make sure we got this on here. Go ahead and tighten this band back up. Okay, we're just getting these 2 13mm back in here. Okay, now we'll go ahead and take our negative that I got down here and get that reconnected. And we'll take our 10 and go ahead and snug this back up. Okay, and now it's time for the moment of truth. We're going to see what this does. Okay, so it definitely stopped all that noise that was going on, and there's a lot of excess heat coming off of that old one as well. And we're going to see, is it going to put out the bolts? So we've got it set on 20 volts there over on our volt side. We'll just connect our positive to positive and negative to negative. And see, now we're getting over 14, so it's looking good. Definitely doing its job. The other one was not. Okay, so and like I was saying, I got this alternator off of a 2008 Ram that had the Hemi in it, and I just matched up the part numbers best I could. It wasn't exact because of the plug, but I only gave $25 from the salvage yard. So I didn't look at the parts store, but I know I was looking online and these were like $100 and up. So $25, I'm happy with it if it does its job. So anyways, it's everything went smoothly, very easy to replace, with the exception of just having that little bracket down there. It's a very simple replacement on this. So that's going to conclude the video. Hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and I thank you for watching.